Houston, our instruments are showing that we have a incoming message from deep space. Repeat, Houston, we have an incoming message from deep space. Houston, we'll begin playing message now. Houston, we're going to try and translate that up here. Hold for translation. Translation complete. We'll begin playing message now.
Hey, it's me, Melissa.
What do you do when the aliens invade? Take a shot of MK Ultra and watch Melissa Jade. Put on your tinfoil hat and tune right in. We got their crime spree, flat earth theories, government conspiracies, a complex Mandela effects, unidentified optics, a mind expanding, fake moon landing, what it all bends understanding. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa. Aliens on the sun or in Area 51. Time travels, unravels, haunted castles, cops are baffled, potential experimental thoughts that make you transcendental. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa. Crime sprees, flat earth theories, government conspiracies, complex Mandela effects, unidentified optics, a mind expanding, fake moon landing, what it all bends understanding. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa.
Hey guys. Hi Snot Rocket. Hey Adrian. Hey Bryn. Cool Gamer. That Michelle. Harlot. 87. Princess Megan. Elsa. Adrian. Every time I see your name, Adrian, I really want to say it like the movie Rocky, but I hold myself back from doing it because it would be embarrassing, but that's always how I want to say it. Hi, Tammy. Tammy says, hi, Melissa. I haven't been around much, but I woke thinking of you. I know how this day has affected you and your family's life. Not sure I will make this live. If not, I'll for sure catch the replay. Well, thank you so much, Tammy Lou. That means so much to me. And thank you so much. Whether you're here now or you're here in the future, your comment alone means the world. So thank you. And hello, Truth Matters. And let me jump down. Hi, Strange Exchange. JK Ismit, Nace, Wheelby, hey, Richie, J Lord, Danielle. How are you guys? Nace is here. Okay. So, as I'm sure majority of you guys already know, today marks Hi King Scarlet. Hi Chloe Joe. Hi guys. So today marks the 22nd anniversary of the September 11th attacks. And if you've been a follower of my channel for a long time, you know that I've done a 9/11 series. I started it on my channel originally, and it's now moved over to my Patreon because obviously YouTube does not like it when you cover those types of topics. But my point is that this specific topic, not only do I have an emotional connection to it, but this 9/11 probably is single-handedly the biggest injustice in American history, in my opinion. Hi, Broken Dishes. Hey. Hi, Dan A. Daylene. Oh my God, look at, hi, Angel. Look at all these amazing people. Hi, Hippie Chick. Hi, guys. It's lovely seeing you all. Thank you all so much for being here with me. Yeah, I think I could safely say that I think this is probably one of, if not the most injustice, situations of injustice in American history. Right, Bryn. Right. And 9/11 is, okay, so I was in 5th grade when the attacks occurred, and no matter who you speak to, everybody is going to remember where they were and what they were doing on September 11th, 2001. It's pretty insane because it's burned into everyone's memory like that. Okay, Harlot. Well, I'm still pumping out episodes, so no rush. You're good. But point is that I was in 5th grade. I was too young to really experience firsthand just how wrong things were, if that makes sense. Looking back, I remember certain things, but I was way, way, way too young to be consciously aware of the things that now as an adult I'm aware of. So it wasn't until years later, I was in my early 20s, that I started looking into 9/11. And if you guys don't know, the 9/11 Commission report, which is the investigation that was done into 9/11, only came about because of the victims' families speaking out and demanding answers. There wasn't going to be an investigation, okay? So it took years for them to give us the 9/11 Commission report. And the 9/11 Commission report is anything but answers. When it comes to 9/11, what I ask of people is to do your best in separating emotion from logic. And I know how hard that is to do. Again, this has directly impacted my family. I'm very well aware of how emotional this day is, but you have to separate those feelings for a moment, and you need to look at that 9/11 Commission report, and you need to look at the facts, because if you do, there isn't a single thing about this day that makes sense. There isn't a single aspect about 9/11 that makes sense. And I'm not being dramatic in the slightest. Whether it comes down to protocol with pilots. Let me tell you something about aircrafts. Pilots are trained. You do not open that cabin door. It does not matter if there is hijacking going on. It doesn't matter if the hijacker is slaughtering every passenger on that plane. Guess what? The pilot will never open that cabin door. That pilot will sacrifice every passenger. Do you want to know why? Because if if that hijacker gets into the cabin, not only do you now lose every life of the passengers and crew on board, but now you also gave the hijacker the plane, and the plane itself is a weapon, and that risks lives on the ground, countless lives of people on the ground. So my point is, whether you take the protocol that was not followed on the aircrafts, whether you take the structural engineering, the architecture of the towers that collapse at free fall speed into their own footprints, whether you take the hijackers, some of the hijackers are still alive to this day. Yeah, I'm sure many of you guys didn't know that part. The hijackers, the list of names and faces they gave us, the people they held accountable and told us committed this atrocious act, are still alive. Or how about, we're supposed to believe a Boeing 757 was able to cut through like butter, right? Or how about, let's talk about Shanksville, right? Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where there is no aircraft at all. You want to know what the official narrative is? The official narrative is, oh, the reason you don't see a craft is because it nosedived into the ground. Basically, if you get a shovel and you start to dig, you'll eventually find a Boeing 757. If you've ever been morbidly curious and looked at a plane crash, listen, planes are flimsy aluminum. That's it. They are nothing. Meaning, when they make impact against the ground, there is no way the structure of the craft is going to maintain its integrity to actually go through the ground. It becomes destroyed. And you see the engine here and part of the wing there. That's what happens. Or how about, again, physics? All of the physics are impossible. You can't deny science. Or the maneuvers done on these crafts were not possible for Boeing 757s. Or why were there war games going on, war games, drills being conducted the morning of 9/11? And do you know what those drills were? The drills were hijacked planes being flown into towers, and they did not call off the war games until after the fourth plane went down, meaning our defense did not know whether it was real life or whether it was a drill. When they were seeing little blips on their screen, they didn't know which was the real hijacked crafts and which was the war games. Ask yourself, why was that happening? When I say not a single part of this day adds up, I mean it. Not a single part of the day. Do you know what the protocol is for the President of the United States when you are under attack? Now, it's not every day that America gets attacked on its own soil. Ask yourselves how many times that has happened, okay? If America is attacked on its own soil, the president, our president, is swooped away by Secret Service agents, okay? Put on a plane and taken to an undisclosed location, told to nobody where he is going, because his safety is our top priority because our president is the leader of our army. He's our first in command. Tell me why George Bush was able to sit there and continue to read a story at a school full of children while America was under attack. I'm sorry, don't you think a classroom full of kids would be the last place you would want our president to be, right? Putting all of those kids at risk. Yet, why didn't our Secret Service handle protocol the way that they were trained to do? Why didn't they swoop in and take Bush the way they took Cheney? Oh, they took Cheney. They took Dick. They didn't take Bush, though. Ask yourself why. How is it that Tower 7 imploded into its own footprint, again, fell at free fall speed? Because 2 towers didn't just go down in New York City on 9/11. 3 towers collapsed. 3. The North Tower, the South Tower of the Twin Towers, and Tower 7. Tower 7, though, wasn't hit by an aircraft. We were told Tower 7 was caught by crossfires and somehow weakened and imploded in its own footprint at free fall speed. And let me be the one to tell you, this is the first time ever in history that a building has ever gone down like that from fire. How is it the Pentagon, the most secured building in the United States, yet we never get any footage of this craft going into it? The only thing we get is still frames where you don't see a craft at all. How is it that the most experienced pilots were not able to recreate the same maneuvers that these alleged hijackers were able to do in these Boeing 757s? These hijackers who could not even pass basic flying school. Yet they were able to do maneuvers that go at speeds that the craft was not even built to withstand. That the most experienced pilots in a simulation recreating these exact the velocity, the high, everything, they recreate the exact conditions. The most experienced pilots were not able to do it. But we're supposed to believe this random guy who couldn't even pass basic flying school in a little jet was able to do that with a commercial airliner? Tell me, how was it that Donald Rumsfeld comes out the day before 9/11, September 10th, and tells America that $2.3 trillion is missing? I'm sorry, what? Yes, don't forget, September 10th, 2001, Rumsfeld comes out to the media and says, I'm sorry, but there's $2.3 trillion that's unaccounted for. We can't seem to locate it. The very next day, 9/11 occurs. Do you know where the records, the financial records, would be held regarding that $2.3 trillion? Oh, that would be in Tower 7, the tower that collapsed in its own footprint, that was never hit by a commercial airplane, and the exact wing of the Pentagon that got hit. Convenient, right? Not a single person mentioned the trillions of dollars that went missing the day before after 9/11 happened. The Twin Towers were built to withstand the impact of 4 commercial airline planes and still stand. Yet we're supposed to believe not just once, but twice with both towers, they were hit. And these towers collapse in its own footprint. Now, if you don't understand what free fall speed is, let me explain to you what free fall speed is. So if you took your phone, hold it in your hand, and extend your arm out. Now drop your phone. Your phone dropping to the floor, that's free fall speed. The amount of time it takes for your phone to drop from your hand to the floor. Free fall speed. There's nothing in between your phone and the floor. There's nothing that comes between it. It's just going straight to the floor. Free fall speed. Okay? Now, if I put a piece of paper underneath my phone and I drop my phone, now going through that piece of paper, it's going to slow my phone down. Eventually it's going to hit the floor, but it's going to slow my phone velocity down a little bit, right? Because it's going to hit that paper first. So that's no longer free fall speed. Now, if the Twin Towers were going to go down, what should have happened is a pancake effect, meaning the top floor pancaking on top of the bottom one, and down and down and down, to where the building compacts, but all floors are still visible, kind of like layers of a sandwich. Except that's not what happened here. How is it that the 2 of the almost tallest towers in the world at the time managed to fall at free fall speed when they had 110 floors underneath them? Do you understand the issue here now? There is no possible way for a tower to fall at free fall speed, given that it has all of those stories below it. It should be pancaking. If the top, because again, you have to remember the top of the tower, everything above the impact zone is really what's collapsing. Okay? So really, it should be tipped over. If anything, the top of that should tip over and still the tower should stand. But let's say it didn't. If it were to come down, it would come down in a pancake. Those top 5 floors would come down and pancake onto the next 5, onto the next 5, onto the next 5. Yet how did this whole, not just one, not 2, 3 towers, one that wasn't even touched by an airplane, collapse at free fall speed? You know what's even fucking crazier? How was it that the BBC network was able to announce that Tower 7 had fallen before it before it had fallen? We watched this news anchor with a live feed of the city behind her, reporting minutes early that Tower 7 just fell. Yet Tower 7 is still standing up in the live feed behind her. Well, that's because Tower 7 was a controlled demolition. Free fall is huge in this, Brian. Like, if you understand science and physics, you know it's not possible. It's literally not possible. Or how about these towers were built in a very unique way? These towers were built with the elevator shafts at the core of them. Like the elevator shafts weren't just randomly throughout these towers. The core center of these towers were elevator shafts, and then the rest of the buildings were like the rest of the office spaces and floors were built around them, meaning the strength of these towers was monumental. These towers were built beautifully. Now, 2 towers over 110 floors falling, well, you'd imagine that would be a lot of rubble, right? That would be a lot of rubble. Well, how is it that the few people that survived were the people on the ground floor? Let that sink in for a second. The people who were on the ground floor should have been the last to make it out alive, because 110 stories should have just collapsed on them. But instead, 110 floors of rubble just disappears. Do you know how many offices there were between the 2 towers? Do you know how many filing cabinets, fax machines, telephones, chairs, desks, computers, toilets? Do you know how many there were between the 2 towers? Do you know how many of those items were found in the rubble? 1 melted filing cabinet. Wouldn't you expect to see toilets, chairs, desks, filing cabinet, all of that shit everywhere? There was thousands of offices. Yet 1 filing cabinet, 1 that is on display the 9/11 museum. Where is all the rubble? 2 towers, 110 stories each. And I'm going to show you right now what we were left with. And I'm asking you, where is all the rubble? Because do you know how much steel that is? Do you know how much steel? Both towers were made up of steel beams. Do you know the biggest steel beam they found was only like 1.5 feet long, and it was conveniently cut at a 90-degree angle? And if you don't know what that means, in controlled demolitions, what they'll do is they'll go into the buildings and they'll usually cut the support beams at 90-degree angles before rigging it with the explosives. So when the explosives go off, the support beams are already weakened and they go down a lot easier. This was the rubble. Do not be mistaken, because some people may look at that and think that that's a lot. That is not 2 towers, 110 floors each. So 220 stories. No. And you could do your own research. There has been a lot of footage that have leaked from other countries of towers that have collapsed, sadly, with people still in it. You can get a good understanding and an idea of what a building should look like when it collapsed. Get the fuck out of my chat, Kim. Yes, my family was there. Yes, my family died there. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Get the fuck out of my chat right now. You're an idiot. Now, how stupid do you feel? Idiot. I have every right to speak on this, because you know what my family does today? We grieve the loss of our loved one that passed right here in this rubble. Right here. I get to speak about this. You don't. Yep, Brian, and it was a gorgeous day. It was a gorgeous sunny day. I appreciate it, Brad. Me too. Well, and that's the thing that bothers me, is I'm a big believer, in order to get justice, you have to know what truly happened. And all I think about is all the jumpers. So many people jumped. Sorry. A lot of people jumped to their deaths this day. Some jumpers even killed, I'm not sure if it was a firefighter or a police officer, because when a person is jumping from that height, their body is like a missile, because the speed it's coming down. And if you watch the footage, for the longest time, these firefighters could not figure out what that sound was, because every few minutes you kept hearing just a slam, slam, slam. And it took them a while before they figured out that those were people jumping. Okay? So, could you imagine how horrific things must have been inside those towers, that if the better option was to jump? And there was a lot of jumpers. There were even jumpers holding hands. So, I think about that and I get mad, because what these people went through, and for what, you know? This is the infamous jumper that made headlines. They call this one the falling man. Jody is cool. There was a lot. Again, I'm not talking about the footage that you see if you watch documentaries. I'm talking about the personal footage of the firefighters and the people who are on the street. And I could link one of the firefighters footage if you want me to. I think I've played it in one of my episodes of my 9/11 series. But you hear them. You straight up hear the bodies as they're hitting the pavement. And you're seeing the firefighters looking at one another like, what is that? Like, you're seeing it and then it click. You're watching their face as they're realizing the most horrific thing and having to come to terms with just how bad it is. And thank you, Nay. So it was a firefighter who was actually killed by a jumper. So somebody who had jumped from the building, and their body, when they're jumping from that height, the momentum, their body is building, going down. Whew. And unfortunately, they had slammed into a firefighter on the way down. Now, also, when the first tower was hit, everybody rationalized with themselves that it was an accident. Oh my God, that airplane must have been cruising too low, whatever. But people started to evacuate, not only from that tower, but the other tower. Why did they go over the intercom and tell everybody to get back to their offices, that everything is fine? Do you know how many could have been saved? Yet they got over the intercom and told everyone, no, there's nothing to be concerned about. Go back to your offices. Everything's fine. Oh, yeah. So we could talk about the firefighter. Yep. So you won't see, because they've scrubbed a lot of footage. But they have, I don't know who they, as far as that 87, all I know is that the people who did survive say that whoever got on the intercom, they were working at, within the offices in the towers, and whoever got on the intercom and told them to relax, everything's fine, no need to panic, go back to your offices, everything's fine. But in the raw footage of these firefighters, the first ones who arrived there, ask yourself this: if the impact from the planes that hit the towers was way near the top of the towers, yet when the firefighters first responded, how is it that the lobbies were completely blown out? When you're watching this footage, it looks like bombs went off in the lobbies. The windows are blown out. Glass is shattered everywhere. People are running, bleeding from their face. The firefighter literally says, as blood is dripping from his nose, there's like bombs going off in there. There is no reason why the tower, if up on the 70th floors affected by the plane, down in the lobby, shit would be blown out. That's because there was explosions. And it's not possible danger zone, because again, the amount of jet fuel that Boeing 757 would have been carrying would have burned off the moment of impact anyway. So to even think that it was the jet fuel that ran down the elevator shaft, and then when the elevator doors open, it blew it out. No, because the moment of impact, it wouldn't have been holding that much. But when the moment of impact happened, it would have created the little explosion, and it would have burnt off right then and there. No, they were blown out before Opinionated. Well, I have a lot of it in my 9/11 series. It is hard to find a lot of the original footage. I have a lot of it. I have a lot of it, but that's because I saved all of it. But I'm gonna be honest, like, prepare yourself if you're gonna go through the unedited, uncut personal footage, meaning something that you're not going to see like in a documentary or put together, on the news. I'm talking about the raw footage, because it fucks with you. It will impact you. It will affect you. It doesn't, it's not like you could just watch it and then like go about your day. Like it sticks with you, if that makes sense. Oh, thank you, Danielle. So I released on my Patreon last night for my Patreon members to be able to see the video before this live, like early access to it. So up until for over 20 years, we never had any view of the Pentagon. Oh, J-Lord, thank you. We never saw any view of the Pentagon with the Boeing 757 going into it, other than those 3 still frames from the parking like little meter that was not continuous footage, and you never saw the actual craft. You just saw the tip of the nose, then the explosion, because it went in still shots. Well, then months ago, I was sent the footage that got at least one angle of the footage that got released, and it shows It is not a Boeing 757. So I wanted to show you guys that because that is huge. Again, the Pentagon, the most secured building in all of America, had over 80 cameras filming at the time that 9/11 occurred, yet never, ever once have we seen footage of this plane going into the Pentagon that day, right? It absolutely looks like a missile. Well, now one shot got leaked, and I'm going to show you guys. But first, I just want to show you, this is Ken Cosgrove, okay? Ken Cosgrove was a man who worked inside the towers. You know, trigger warning, you know, for anybody, this is going to be emotional. But this is a little over 4 minutes long. But this is a 911 call. Obviously, 911 dispatchers were flooded from many people from inside the towers. Ken Cosgrove was one of those people, and he called 911. And while he was on the phone with 911, the towers collapsed, and it was all recorded. And as difficult as it is to listen to, it needs to be heard, because this is what these people went through this day. And it's heartbreaking, and there are no words to describe it. But again, I'm not going to forget. We're not going to forget. It needs to be spoken about, and as horrible as it is, it needs to be remembered. Don't forget what happened. Every single person who lost their lives this day deserves justice, okay?
Okay, there was notifications made. What's that? What's the telephone number? I'm waiting for MC to pick up. What's the telephone number you're calling? The AC. You can do MC there, 441-2623. 441-2623. It's on 105th corner, northwest corner, right? Right. At number 2 World Trade Center, right. The lady is feverish in this office. We're not ready to die, but it's getting bad. I understand, sir. We can have all the apparatus there. I'm trying to make it know where you are. Hold on. Oh, please hurry. Fire department, 408. This is 15. Let me talk to the call, TV. 1597. Let me talk to the call. Where is he? He's on the line. Let me talk to him. Where's the fire, sir? It's smoke. Right there. 105, 2 power. All right, 2 power. We'll get to you as soon as we can. There's some staying up at the smoke news there, man. I barely leave. That's all we can do. What's you guys up to? We're getting there. Doesn't feel like it, man. I got one, too. I understand that, sir. We're on the way. He's on the 105th corner, northwest corner. Yeah, no problem. We're operator. Yeah. Come on, man. Okay, we have everything, sir. I know you do, but it doesn't seem like you. You get lots of people up here. I understand. I know you got a lot in the building, you have up on the top. Smoke clouds, we're on the floor, we're in the window. And then we have to be in green now. Can't see. Okay. Just try to hang in there. I'm going to stay with you. You say you're in an air condition, baby. What the hell happened? Okay, I'm still here. She's just trying to find a partner, trying to get me. Does it feel like it? Okay, try to calm down so you can conserve your oxygen, okay? Try to. Thank God to blow you in from the left. It's really bad. It's black. It's hours. Anybody else want to try it in here? These young men who are not ready to die. I'm here. How the hell are you going to get my ass down? I need oxygen. They're going to see. They have a lot of apparatus on the you guys didn't feel like it, lady. You get them in from all over. They get in from Jersey. I don't give a shit Ohio. Okay, so what's your last name? Mine's high school. I must have called about a dozen times already. Tostgrove. Yeah, my wife thinks I'm all right. I called her and said I was leaving the building. I was fine, and bang. Well, I want to hold on. Yeah. Cherry. That Cherry, you said, right? Yeah. That Cherry's next to me. 105. John Astro's office. That's what you said. That's the office. You're in John Astro's office. OST. ARU. ARU. Right. That's the office we're at. There's three of us in here. OST ARU. Hello? Hello. We're looking at financial center. Three of us, two broken windows. Oh, God! Ah!
The pure terror. But did you see how the tower just imploded into its own footprint at free fall speed? I don't twizzle stick. What I always say is this. I have no idea what happened, but I could tell you what didn't happen. What didn't happen is the official narrative that they gave us. What didn't happen is a couple of hijackers with box cutters and mace took over these commercial airliners. That didn't happen. These towers did not implode into their own footprints at free fall speed. There is not a Boeing 757 underneath the earth in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. I don't know what happened, but I know what didn't. It is not scientifically possible. Architecture, it's not possible. Engineering, it is not possible. Maneuvers with the craft, it is not possible. Physics, it is not possible. Nothing about the day, no matter what way you look at it, is not possible. And again, I know how hard it is to separate emotion, but you need to separate emotion. And this live isn't about separating the emotion. That's more what my series does, focusing on what doesn't make sense. But take the time, because once you realize once you actually realize just how big of a scale that they lied to us, and not just that they lied to us, look what they did. These victims are real. To say 9/11, I don't like to use the word conspiracy. The victims are real. Trust me, I get that. I see that firsthand. They're real. What happened that day is real. All of those police officers and firefighters who ran into those buildings, there were civilians who were heroes that day. Everybody is real. But what the fuck happened? I don't know what happened. I know what didn't, though. I know what fucking didn't. And I am disgusted. And once you come to terms that they're willing to cover something like this up, that is when you start to question everything. Where Bush and Cheney refuse to be questioned without one another. And again, I think about the jumpers, and I think about Ken Cosgrove, and I think about all of the victims from this day. And I think, how could you? And they're not only are their bodies buried underneath this rubble, the secrets are buried underneath this rubble. And we will never know the truth. We heard such a powerful, motivating narrative regarding Flight 93, right? The let's roll narrative. You guys remember that? Flight 93 is the one that the passengers took over, did not let the hijackers win, and they flew the plane into Shanksville, into the ground, versus letting it go towards the White House where it was heading. Except, did you guys know that the recording of the hijacker was speaking the wrong language? Or how about for Flight 93, because we have a lot of the calls that the passengers made to their family. We have most calls regarding all the flights were Flight 93. A lot of these passengers were already aware somewhat of what happened regarding the towers. They had heard about it, and they called their loved ones, left voicemails, things like that. So we have a lot of messages, and it gives some insight. Yet here's the thing. At that altitude, at that time, cell service shouldn't have worked. At the cruising altitude that they were going back in 2001, most cell service would not have worked. So then they turned around and told us, ready? That, oh no, they were using the plane's phone. At least specifically regarding this flight attendant. Only for people to look into it and prove that that plane's phone has been disconnected for years. It was no longer actively working. So then they went back to a cell phone. Which is it? Did the passengers call from cell phones? Did they call from the plane phones? Did they have the ability to make calls at the altitude that they were at? Why does the narrative change? Now, this is the rubble from Shanksville. This is what was left of a Boeing 757 commercial airliner making impact with the ground. When the coroner himself said, there's nothing I could do. There's no bodies. There's no blood. The coroner came here to pronounce people dead. Okay. Oh no, they absolutely spoke to their loved ones. I'm saying, was it from their cell phones? Was it from the plane phone? And what altitude were they at the times at the calls? Because specifically regarding the flight attendant, and I'll have to look up her specific name, there was a lot of shady things regarding her husband, and her husband was the one who originally said she called with her cell phone, and then people said, well, no, wait, at that altitude I don't think she could have made the call. And so then he turned around and was like, no, she called using the plane's phone. And then for people to show, no, there was no active phone on the plane at the time for him to turn back around. So absolutely, all of those victims made those calls, and they are heartbreaking, heart-wrenching messages. I'm not denying that at all. Versus, were they at the altitude that they were supposed to be at the time, or something along those lines? Yeah, British. I have my opinions, but I'll find the guy, that flight attendant, and the guy specific, because it's a very interesting story, and I'll pull it up. But this is Flight 93. Okay. Yes, Danielle. That one bothers me very, very, very much. But ask yourself, where's the plane? A huge commercial aircraft crashes into the ground. Again, if you've ever seen a plane crash and you're familiar, you would know that the plane becomes torn apart, but big pieces of it, it's in chunks. You got the big engine here, the wing there, the seats are ripped out, shrapnel, it's everywhere. It's ripped apart, but it's everywhere. Where is any of the plane? No, opinionated, no. They told us, opinionated. They told us the official narrative. You want the official narrative? The official narrative is the plane nosedived into the ground. No, that's not Betty Young. It's the other one. It's hold on, I have to think of her name. It's not Betty Young though. She was one of the flight attendants. She was the one first talking to ground control, letting them know of the hijack. She was the first flight attendant to notify of what was going on. But no, Betty Young wasn't the one who said it's a hoax or something like that. That was hold on. Who was it? CeCe Lines. Thank you, British. Yes, it was CeCe Lines. Thank you. But okay. The plane nosedived into the ground, and you could unearth Flight 93 with a shovel. If you start to dig, you will find the aircraft in its hole underground. Do you have any idea again how flimsy an airplane is? An airplane is aluminum, flimsy aluminum. The wings are nothing. Yes, Harlot. So here's the thing. You need to look at it this way. Whether it comes to Shanksville or whether it comes to the towers, Newton's third law, action and reaction, okay? Newton's third law states for every action force in nature, there is an equal and opposite reaction. If object A exerts a force on object B also exerts an equal and opposite force onto object A. So, what does that mean? It makes it a lot easier if you think it in these terms. Instead of thinking of what would happen to the towers if an airplane flying at 500 miles per hour hits the towers, think of it like this. An airplane is stationary. An airplane is standing still. And the Twin Tower, okay, 110-story steel building is going 500 miles per hour and hits the airplane. What do you think would happen to the airplane? Would you anticipate the airplane would cut through the steel building? Or would you anticipate that steel building to annihilate the airplane? Same thing with Shanksville. Instead of thinking of the plane going into the ground, think about the plane being stationary. And if you could take the ground moving at 500 miles per hour and slamming it into a stationary airplane, would you imagine the airplane penetrating through the ground, or would you imagine the airplane crumbling upon impact? It's much easier to imagine it that way, because that's when you really realize, oh shit, there's no way these planes would have cut through these towers like melted butter, because it's the same force. That's the whole point. Think of it in the opposite way, because it's the same force going back. So it's the same, it's equivalent to the same. It's an equal force going the opposite way. It's Newton's third law. At least for me, it helps my brain think of it that way, because it's like, oh, hell no, that plane would never, it would just become demolished. Exactly, the airplane would become pulverized. I would not imagine a 110-story steel building even being dented going at 500 miles per hour, hitting an aluminum airplane, that's standing still. It would be like, ting, goodbye. Yet we're supposed to believe it went through. It cut through this entire steel building. That doesn't make sense. Yeah, me too, Brad. No, they shouldn't, Corey. Those buildings physically should not have come down. So let me show you the Pentagon video. No, I think the plane hit the buildings. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not. Please don't think I'm not saying something like I'm not, I don't know what word to use. Just because I'm saying that the plane shouldn't have cut through doesn't mean I'm saying the planes didn't hit the buildings. The planes, I think, hit the buildings, but there's much more to it. Okay, so I'm going to play this video. It's a minute long. There's the woman, who the original TikToker, she's narrating it. What's it called? I'm going to leave her narration in, at least for the first round, because it's interesting. But this is the first. Well, you know what? Let me show you what, up until now, what our Pentagon footage has consisted of. Hold on. So over 20 years, this is what we've been released. The most secured building in the United States, okay? We were released like 3 frames from this parking meter, which does not show a Boeing 757 at all. You'll see the nose of what they say is the craft coming in to the right, and then boom, the explosion. There was over 80 cameras recording the Pentagon on the day of 9/11. Yet this is, for over 20 years, this is all we were given. Now, the gas station across the street from the Pentagon and the hotels, they all said how literally moments after this happened, the FBI were there taking their CCTV footage, like immediately. Well, we got a different view over 20 years later. At ground level, no less, Brad. Again, maneuvers that even the most experienced pilot was not able to do. Do you know how hard it would be to be able to control a craft of that size? The Pentagon's only a few stories tall. To be able to maintain and level a craft at that speed, going that low, and level it to go, no, they did it in the flight simulators. The most experienced pilots, not possible. Yes, they said it's impossible. There is a group, I forgot what they're called, but there is a group of pilots, engineers, and architects who have band together to speak out specifically regarding 9/11. They're most educated in their field, and they have come out to speak out and let people know, you guys, for the pilots, they break down all of the data regarding the crafts, the maneuvers that they did, everything regarding the airplanes, and explain how it's not possible. The engineers explained everything regarding the towers and whatnot, how it's not possible. Same thing with the architects, not possible. I'll keep replaying it. We were given fucking these still frames. That's it. This is supposed to be a Boeing 757. Exactly, Strange Exchange. You would have seen burnt all over that fucking grass. It would, like, there's no way to keep it level. No way. Yes, Unfiltered Kelly. Well, there's only one recording of the first tower being hit, and that was pure luck that it was recorded. And it was because the guy was recording a day in the life of, like, basically taking a tour in the firehouse and kind of just butting along with the firefighters. And they were outside and he was recording them doing something. He was recording them all day, like what they would do. He was filming a documentary, and they heard the plane fly above, because that's not, planes don't fly above in that area. And he looked up, and as he looked up, he happened to catch it happen. That was it. That is the only footage you have of the first tower being hit. So this is, for over 20 years, this is the only thing we were given. Now, ready? We've been shown something else. Oh, okay, wait, you know what? Let me show you guys. Let me finish playing this. There was a little bit more.
Well, hopefully it will put to rest some of the conspiracy theories about September 11th. Also, it's important that there be a complete record for history. And it also serves as a useful reminder about the terrible nature of the terrorist threat we face as a country. Well, it's important that people understand that Flight 77 was used as a weapon against the Pentagon, and many, many people died. The suggestion has been that our government was involved in that, and hopefully this video puts all that to rest.
Yet, the owner of the World Trade Centers at the time is on footage admitting that Tower 7 was a controlled demolition and that they pulled it. They made the call to pull it. And if you don't know what pull it means, it's a term used in controlled demolition when it's time to, I guess, set the detonator off. I've shown that in my series. I could probably pull it up again if you guys want to see it. So even if you were to accept one tower was rigged and ready to go with controlled demolition, you have to question everything. Why was that tower ready to go with controlled demolition? Larry Silverstein. Yep. Twizzle stick. Yep. Okay, so here we go.
Holy shit, somebody finally found the confiscated video that the FBI took on the day of 9/11, where it was proving it wasn't a plane, it was a Scud missile. There was talk amongst the community, because I've been awake for 20 years since this happened, that there was a Scud missile. The witnesses were silenced. The person who had this tape that turned it over to the FBI concealed this information, and as you can see, that is not a plane. That is a Scud missile, as originally thought. Fucking deep state cabal, you sons of bitches. Those who knew, we already knew you did shit. But this was the last piece of the puzzle for the evidence. With that whole entire crap with the 9/11 report that said it disintegrated. That is a Scud missile. Swedish satellite saw that there was a marking target, and that was completely put aside, and you all bought the lie. Heavenly Father, let truth prevail.
I mean, technically,
Holy
don't
shit,
British, but people have lined it
the
up.
Confiscated video that the FBI took on the day of 9/11, where it was proving it wasn't a
Sorry, instead of screaming over her. People have taken the footage that we have of the Pentagon and like compared it, and people much smarter than I am, where they take it like frame by frame and like match it up and it fits, you know what I mean? But it's not like the government's gonna come out and say, yep, it's legit. This is exactly what I would anticipate. We all believed it was a missile. British, and if you remember, there's the woman who was in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, who she's in the doc, like in some footage, and she explained how she saw the white drone looking thing flying around before the explosion. Like, she saw it. Where'd you post it, Brian? The gas station is right across the street, Brad. And the gas station attendant said literally at the same time that he saw the impact happen is when they were already there confiscating his footage. So do I, British Chippy. So do I. I get mad. I get really mad because it's with this, it is such a with this topic specifically, it is very sensitive, especially in New York, you know, like everyone, like there's really not anybody you will meet that isn't related to or know somebody directly that was lost in 9/11. And so it's a very sensitive subject to discuss. You can't discuss it with everybody. But for me, like I said, I'm like, how do you accept losing your loved ones when something much darker is at play here? And I understand that, like, it's hard and like it's so, I feel like they're gonna get away with it because this day was so fucked up that people aren't even willing to open the book to it. If that makes sense. I don't know if I'm communicating it properly, but they're gonna get away with it because it is just too fucked up for people to even question. And I get it. There's parts of my family who will not talk about it either. But like I said, the 9/11 Commission report, which was the investigation, only came about because of the victims' families demanding answers. Oh yeah, Amber. Well, there, like I put in my community post yesterday, it wasn't about what happened on September 11th. It's what happened after, like what happened on September 12th. Because one thing I can tell you though is people did not hesitate to come together. Again, when those towers went down, when you're facing all of that rubble, you would think, oh my God, what? I can't go in there, right? Like, what am I supposed to do? No. Like, those towers went down, and then they all started forming an assembly line, and they started picking up steel beams and piece by piece trying to uncover potentially alive people. People came together in a way that I don't think I'll ever experience in my lifetime again. I don't know where specifically 247 Hinky. I'll try to look into it and get more information because I would like to know too. Because if we knew it was a missile, opinionated, then the question lies, where's the craft and passengers? What happened to the craft and passengers? Yes, hippie chick. People came from, firefighters came from all crossing over all the states to come and help. And it was just 3 days ago. 3 days ago. 3 days ago. They identified 2 victims from 9/11. And when I say identified, I mean they were able to, through new DNA testing, identify bone fragments. So the rubble and everything, there was no bodies. It wasn't like that. The same thing with my family member. There wasn't a body for a very, very long time. Only years later did we get a piece of bone fragment. And so I understand that process. So what they do is they took the rubble, they scooped the rubble, and then they brought it to a site, and then just like a sifter, okay, they take the rubble and they sift and they shake and they shimmy and they try to find bone fragments. And some are the tiniest little pieces. And those are what we consider the remains to identify our loved ones, even though as far as like 3 days ago, the 2 victims who were identified, those families knew for over 20 years that their loved ones perished on this day. But at the same time, I'm so happy they finally had the closure, because I remember even as a young kid, the way that we had to find out whether your family member was identified on the news, guys. This is how it went. On the news, at the bottom of the screen, they started scrolling names of people they found. And so you'd have to look every day and hope your loved one's name would be scrolling at the bottom of the screen. And so that day never came for those two family members, those two victims' family members. And so I'm just so happy that they got that closure. Thank you so much, Punky, for the super sticker. Punksy for the super sticker. And I think I missed all the way up here. But yes, I did. Vic's Logic had said, a perilous day for New York City. May they rest in peace. Thank you so much, Vix. Yeah, J-Lord. Because that's like one of the few things, J-Lord, I remember. Again, I was really young, and it's funny like what sticks in your memory as a kid. And I remember being in my mom's room while she would be doing her makeup and getting ready. I would be in her room while she's getting ready for work and just have the news on. I remember the channel and everything, and then just looking at the bottom of the screen day after day, waiting for the name to pop up. Oh, thank you, Michelle. You and your family are my thoughts today. Melissa, may your loved one rest peacefully. Thank you so much. It's very, very kind of you. Very much appreciated. Yes, hippie chick. I actually don't have a good memory at all, just saying. But again, like as far as 9/11, I feel like everybody could recall where they were. I remember, because again, I was in 5th grade. I was, I'm very close to Manhattan too. And so being attacked on U.S. soil, you have to remember the service went down. Cell phones weren't working. Shit was weird. So I remember the principal came in, said something into my teacher's ear, and I'll never forget the look on my teacher's face. It's something that like it's burned into my memory. And she went and she pulled all of the blinds down, and we had to get underneath our desks like it was that drill. But you could tell this was not a drill. And then we all had to go into the gymnasium, and our parents were there quick. I got home so quick that I was home before either tower collapsed. I was home before either tower collapsed because I was watching it on the TV when it happened. And I remember looking at the old box TV. It was a big ass box TV. And I remember looking at it and knowing how serious this is. But as a kid, you can't process like those emotions at the same time. But watching the towers go down, I'll never forget that. And then walking outside, and for days, the sky was black. You just, and so, and the blackness, like it moved in a cloud, like, because I'm in Long Island. So like you see it over towards the city, and like the cloud would just move It was just so ominous. Very, very ominous. Oh, thanks, Meat Feets. Your 9/11 coverage is what originally drew me into you. Thank you for bringing light to this for all the victims and families. Never forget. Love you, MJ. Thanks, Meat Feets. Yes, Brad. I know. I've seen a lot about that too. Now, you could feel it, J-Lord. Exactly. Exactly. You were teaching the class. That must have been scary, Inspector Gadget. Exactly, Kim Young. Yep. I was working for an airline, and that day, me and my coworkers received multiple calls. Oh my God. Received multiple calls about Flight 93 being at CLE. Really? Oh, that's interesting. You were on the Verrazano, Doc? Oh, see, I love hearing where people were. I love it. That's super interesting. Yes, OCD Shaggy. Well, no, opinionated. The problem is the speed that plane was going. It was going like over 500 miles per hour. And that plane is not even built to withstand going that speed. Okay. And so going that speed and doing the maneuvers, it was making very quick, sharp turns. And then also maintaining that low altitude, like a couple of stories above the ground. And this is someone who wasn't even able to pass a single engine. I forgot what they're called. The single engine little jet thingy. Like basic flying test. Yet the most experienced pilots recreated this in a flight simulator, this exact scenario, these exact conditions, and they were not able to do it. None of them were able to do it. Cessna, thank you guys. Cessna, we got 3 of them who just thank you. It was the Boeing 757. That plane is not built to even be able to go at 500 miles per hour. It would crumble. It would disintegrate in the air. This is what I'm saying. Just look into it. Look into the alleged velocity it was going. It would, the plane itself, the structure of the plane, the integrity would crumble in the air. So, many 9/11 hijackers are still alive. The world's media has reported that many of the so-called hijackers fingered by the FBI are still alive. For example, the BBC, British Broadcasting Corporation, carried this report. Hijack suspects alive and well. I can click on it. The following article is a remake of, and this is the article, which lists many of the media articles dealing with the hijackers who were not hijackers. Okay? Oh, wow, Michelle. Abdul Aziz Al-Omari, Flight 11 trained pilot. The identities of 2 men with the same name have been cobbled together to create an FBI terrorist. Both are alive. The first has the same name, the same birth date as one of the FBI terrorists, but has no idea how to fly. The second has the name Abdul Rahman Al-Omari and a different birth date, but is the person pictured by the FBI and is a pilot for Saudi Arabian Airlines. Here are some quotes from the world's media concerning them. Omari number 1. A Saudi man has reported to authorities that he is the real Abdul Aziz Al-Amari and claims his passport was stolen in 1995 while he studied electrical engineering at the University of Denver. Al-Amari says he informed police of the theft. ABC News. I couldn't believe it when the FBI put me on their list. They gave my name and my date of birth, but I am not a suicide bomber. I am here. I am alive. I have no idea how to fly a plane. I had nothing to do with this. Telegraph, September 23rd, 2001. The name listed by the FBI is my name, and the birth date is the same as mine, but I am not the one who bombed the World Trade Center in New York. Abdul Aziz Al-Amari told the London-based Asharq Al-Aswat newspaper. Al-Amari has since been found in Saudi Arabia and is apparently cleared in the case. New York Times. Okay? Bet you haven't heard about this, right? Saudi embassy officials in Washington have challenged his identity. They say a Saudi electrical engineer named Abdul Aziz Al-Amari had his passport and other papers stolen in 1996 in Denver when he was a student and reported the theft to police there at the time. BBC. Abdul Aziz Al-Amari, I really struggle with that, and Saeed Hossein Gamaralala Al-Ghamdi are well in life, the first in Saudi Arabia and the second in Tunisia for 9 months. This is reported September 21st, 2001. And then the Omari number 2. Mr. Al-Omari, a pilot with Saudi Airlines, walked into the U.S. Embassy in Jeddah to demand why he was being reported as a dead hijacker in the American media. Are you grasping this? Are you grasping this? He walked into the fucking U.S. Embassy demanding to be told why he's being reported as a dead hijacker. Okay? But this is what our government told us. These are the people our government told us are responsible. Oh, thank you, Just Saying, for the super sticker. Thank you so, so much. Abdul is a pilot for Saudi Arabian Airlines. September 23rd, 2001. This was being reported weeks after the attacks. A pilot with Saudi Airlines was astonished to find himself accused of hijacking as well as being dead, as he has visited the U.S. consulate in Jeddah to demand an explanation. September 17th, 2001. This Al-Amari lives with his wife and 4 children in Saudi Arabia. So they're not dead. Not on those planes that went down. We're not the hijackers. Saeed on Flight 93, trained pilot. Saeed is one of 3 hijackers that U.S. officials have said are linked to Osama bin Laden's Al-Qaeda network. No BBC. Mr. Al-Ghamdi is still alive and well and at his job for Tunis Air. I was completely shocked. For the past 10 months, I have been based in Tunis with 22 other pilots learning to fly an Airbus 320. The FBI provided no evidence of my presumed involvement in the attacks. September 23rd, 2001. Again, 2 weeks after the attacks, here's another one saying, excuse me, I am here. I'm alive. I am not a hijacker. I did not die. And newspaper, London-based Arabic Daily, says they have interviewed him. September 23rd, 2001. Not dead and had nothing to do with the heinous terror attacks in New York and Washington. Saudi embassy. Then we have Walid al-Shari, Flight 11 trained pilot. A sixth person on the FBI's list, Saudi national Walid is living in Casablanca, according to an official with the Royal Air Maroc, the Moroccan commercial airline. According to the unnamed official, al-Shari lived in Dayton Beach, Florida, where he took flight training at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. Now he works for a Moroccan airline. On September 22nd, Associated Press reported that al-Shari had spoken to the U.S. Embassy in Morocco. His photograph was released by the FBI and has been shown in newspapers and on television around the world. That same Mr. al-Shari has turned up in Morocco, proving clearly that he was not a member of the suicide attack. Reported September 24th, 2001. He was reported to have been in Hollywood, Florida for a month earlier this year, but his father, Ahmed, said that Walid was alive and well and living in Morocco. Another of the men named by the FBI as a hijacker in the suicide attacks on Washington and New York has turned up alive and well. Ahmed Al-Nami, Flight 93. I'm still alive, as you can see. I was shocked to see my name mentioned by the American Justice Department. I have never even heard of Pennsylvania, where the plane I was supposed to have hijacked. He had never lost his passport and found it very worrying that his identity appeared to have been stolen and published by the FBI without any checks. The FBI said that his possible residence was Delray Beach in Florida. Salim, Flight 77. Salim is 26 and had just returned to work at a petrochemical complex in the industrial eastern city of Yanbu after a holiday in Saudi Arabia when the hijackers struck. He was accused of hijacking the American Airlines Flight 77 that hit the Pentagon. Khalid. Saudi officials at the embassy were unable to verify the whereabouts of the fifth accused hijacker, Khalid. However, Arab newspaper says Khalid is still alive. There are suggestions that another suspect, Khalid, may also be alive. Others accused of being involved. Amir. Amir died in a small plane crash last year. Adnan. Adnan is still in Florida. Amir. That a suspect sought by the FBI, Amir, was in fact a live pilot in Arabia. Even after the above has appeared in the world's media, the FBI has made no attempt to alter its websites, which clearly list the wrong names, wrong photos, wrong identities, and probably wrong nationalities of the real hijackers. Given that the hijackers, if there were any, were clearly using false identities, why has the FBI never attempted to find out the hijackers' true identities? Why does the FBI seem totally disinterested in apprehending the real culprits? This lack of actions from one of our trusted government departments is very close to treason. So did you guys know that? The hijackers are still alive. Hey, Jeff. There's just so much. There's so much. That's why I started a series on it. There isn't. Why aren't the black boxes recoverable? 4 crafts, only 1 black box data voice recorder recoverable, and they will not release it. Come on. But we're supposed to believe a couple of inexperienced men who could not even fly a single and Cessna, right, was able to do these impossible maneuvers in a 757 Boeing at impossible speeds and take over these crafts and all of these people on board with box cutters and mace? Oh, and all of those towers going down, right? And I told you, just a single filing cabinet. Yet, you know what was found? You know what was found sitting on the corner perfectly? One of the hijackers' passports. Never the mind 2 towers, bodies, the planes, any of the items within it. But what was found perfectly sitting on the corner was the hijacker's passport. Pretty convenient, huh? Why were they doing war games on the morning of September 11th? Why wouldn't they stop the war games, the drills? They were having our defense, okay, where they deploy our fighter jets in the event of a terror attack. Well, they were having our defense run drills. The drills they were running were hijacked planes going into towers. If you listen to the NORAD audio, which we've done in my series, you will hear them say, whoa, wait a second. Is this real world? Is this real world? Because they can't figure out, is this the drill or is this real world? Like, are we really under attack or are we still playing on the drill right now? They did not call off the drill until after the 4th plane went down. Hours. Meaning, whenever these people were looking at their screen, instead of it just showing the blip, the little blip where the planes, hey, these are our targets, these are the hijacked planes about to go into the buildings. Instead, it had 12 blips on the screen showing 12 hijacked planes because 10 of them were the drill. They would not end the drill. So they didn't know which plane was the real one and which one was the fake one. Why were they playing war games? Why were they doing those drills? Why didn't they end the drill? No, I don't think it would have disintegrated Kim M2. It would have destroyed, absolutely, but pieces of it would be identifiable. You would see an engine, you would see a piece of the wing, you would see a couple of seats kind of huddled together, you would see bodies, luggage, you would see mangled metal. You would see it. If you've ever seen a plane crash, wreckage, you know it's destroyed, but it's in pieces. It's everywhere. The debris field may be spread out, but the pieces of the plane are there. There's nothing in Shanksville. Operation Northwoods was a 9/11 handbook twizzle stick. Yep. Mock funerals, attack on U.S. soil to push their own agenda and garner the public support. Now, what is really interesting is looking at Dr. Judy Wood's theory. Where did the rubble go? She did a lecture. Oh, it's so interesting on direct energy weapons and dustification. And she makes a lot, like, now there's a few things that I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. But for the most part, she makes a lot of great points. Like the temperature of the rubble made no sense. It should have been scorching. It wasn't. It just so many things. Okay, Michelle, love you. Thank you so much for being here. There was a lot of people lost, a lot of victims, a lot of heroes, a lot of unanswered questions. And unfortunately, like I said, I don't think we're ever going to get those answers. But even if I could get one person just to have an open mind and to look at things objectively, because once you see it, this is not, because unfortunately people look at you like, oh, you're just, conspiracy theorist, like they look at you like you're a wackadoo. No, not with this. I'm telling you, not with this. I don't know what. With a conspiracy theorist, I would have to be pushing a conspiracy, right? I don't know what happened. All I ask is to look at the information they gave us. Look at NISC. Look at the 9/11 Commission report. And you will see. Do not take my word for it. Take the scientists, the physicists, architects, engineers, pilots, people who are extremely educated in their fields to tell you it is not fucking possible for what happened to have happened. Three buildings collapsing into their own footprint at free fall speed. It's not up for an opinion. It's not up to your debate. It is physically, scientifically not possible under those circumstances. Because if they're willing to do it to us once, you need to have your eyes open and be prepared that it could happen again. And if you don't think they will, look at Operation Northwoods. Operation Northwoods, it's right in front of your face. It's a how-to guide for 9/11. Operation Northwoods is we had to look into taking over Fidel Castro and Cuba. So we were planning fake attacks on American soil. We literally, it's all in the CIA released documents. We were going to crash planes into buildings. We were going to have mock funerals, meaning funerals for victims that didn't die. These people do not exist, but they were going to depict it like 38 casualties, like, and all these people, but they aren't real. Blasted all over the newspapers in order to garner public support and financial support to go in against Cuba. Now, we never ended up needing to do that. But the point is that it was all laid out and ready to go. If you think that they just had it written out and ready to go for no reason, like, come on. So it's not coming out of completely left field here that they would possibly do something like this. They were willing to do it long ago, way before 9/11. Bohemian Grove, harlot. There's a lot, actually. And that's the thing. And unfortunately, with Alex Jones specifically, people could come at me. With Alex Jones, what I think happened to him, when you realize that they're lying to you, and you realize just how fucked up of shit they're willing to do. Like, look at 9/11. Look at Bohemian Grove. Now, what I think happened with Alex is once you start to uncover just how deep it goes, then it could become very easy to question everything and then no longer be able to decipher what is, I don't want to say a conspiracy or not, versus like some things just aren't there, but because like you've exposed so much, now you don't trust anything. You kind of fell down deep into it, but he exposed a lot. But that's what happens once you realize what they're willing to do. I don't blame him for fucking questioning everything. For what? What are you looking for, opinionated? Yeah, Daniel. What do you want sources for? I'll get it for you. Hey, Aries. Way too many coincidences. Well, not even coincidences, Big White Horse. It's not possible. It's just not possible. Take any part of 9/11 and nothing went right. Nothing makes sense. Nothing. Yeah. I agree, MK. I do agree 100% with you there. You don't know what Bohemian Grove? Hi, Kimberly. Bohemian Grove is, yeah, loose change is good. Bohemian Grove is, Amber, Alex Jones was talking about a place in the middle of the woods where the elite of the elite top men come together in these mock sacrifice ceremonies, and they have this, like mock ritual human sacrifices and burning of things and weird shit. And everybody thought Alex Jones was crazy until he managed to sneak in there with a fucking camcorder like back in the day and record it and exposed all of the top elite officials in this mock sacrificing this fake children and shit to this owl god. All of this dark ritualistic shit. Yep. Malik, thank you, Nady. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, I gotta look into Bohemian Grove, Amber. Bohemian Grove, it's sick. That's when Alex Jones got into his whole "the frogs are gay" thing. So, oh, good. Oh, it's Sherry. That's awesome. And like I said, I have an entire 9/11 series. I think there's 8 episodes so far. It's just all on my Patreon because YouTube is not friendly as far as discussing this type of content. So I had to move the series over to my Patreon, but I'm still working on new episodes. So it's like a active series. So if you are interested and you're a Patreon member, you have access to all of it. Yeah, the frogs are turning gay. Exactly. That's, yeah. So, but all right, guys, I appreciate you all so much for being here with me. I seriously cannot believe it's 22 years today, but I appreciate you guys listening, having an open mind, discussing it with me. I love how many of you guys are already educated about the topic, because at least in my real life, it's really hard to find people who are aware. But like I said, being in this area, it's a very sensitive subject. But it really means so much to me to be able to talk freely and not be judged and have your guys' support. And it's always a difficult time. But like I said, I feel like I am doing something when I am calling this shit out, because I'd rather be exposing what happened to try to prevent it from happening again. If that makes sense. But thank you all so much. And yeah, I will continue and we'll push forward with the next episode to the 9/11 series over on Patreon. And so if you are interested in it and you guys want to continue to talk about it and we go much deeper with, like, you know, with the specifics in the actual series. Other than that, I will see you all tomorrow. So have an amazing night. And yeah, I will talk to you all soon.